Hello, and I want to thank you all for coming to our session today. It's absolutely a pleasure to be here. My name is Dr. Jay Hoffman. I am an Assistant Professor of Health and Movement Science and Athletic Training Program Director at Graceland University. In addition to those roles, I also serve as the Chair of the Enrollment Management and Persistence Committee here at Graceland University. It is through those roles that I've had the sincere pleasure of working with and meeting Catherine Craig, the director of our Career Academic and Personal Counseling Center. And we're going to take some time today just to sit and talk with you a little bit about the appreciative advising process and how we went about utilizing it here at Graceland. So at this point in time, I'll turn this over to Catherine and she'll do kind of a brief introduction. So Catherine, right here, you'd go ahead and talk about the basics things that we're going to talk about, and then I'll chime back in here. Just to give you a little background and context about Graceland University so you have a better picture of what it is that we look like. We are a small private liberal arts university located in Lamoni, Iowa. We're about an hour south of Des Moines, here right on I-35. We do have quite a few majors, upwards of 50, including 9 pre-professional programs, 3 master's programs, and a doctorate in nursing. Our current faculty ratio is roughly 15-to-1, and we employ upwards of 89 full-time faculty, most of which have a terminal degree. However, we're going to look here a little bit at the student population. While we list as much as roughly 2,000 students at Graceland, what we really want to talk about today is we're going to talk about what we call as our residential or our traditional campus, which is located in Lamoni. We do have a second campus, which is predominantly our non-traditional students graduate programs and continuous studies, and it's located in Independence, Missouri. But again, we're going to sit here and we're going to focus predominantly on the traditional residential campus located in Lamoni. With that being said, we have roughly about 1,000 students that are full-time on the Lamoni campus. And if we look at that class, here's what I want you to know. We look at enrolling roughly about 350 or so students with the entering freshman classes. And if you take a look at our average ACTs, GPAs, and our male to female ratio, I want you to note a couple things. First off, you can note our average ACT, which is actually just a little bit lower than maybe some of our peer institutions for other selective private liberal arts universities. Not so much concerned about the GPA here, but then again note that we are roughly 65% male, 35% female. And where that comes in a little bit is we are very heavily driven by athletics in that enrollment. We do have a substantially large football team, and which means that we have a disproportionate number of males oftentimes in that entering class, especially just because of some of our athletic squad sizes in that. So, but it's still an important number because, as many of you know in here, are some of the basic traditional retention data. As we fall below that kind of 21 threshold on the ACT, and as we look at higher percentages of male, especially those coming from low-income backgrounds, that puts us at kind of a disadvantage when it comes to retention. So let's talk about a little bit about our story. I have to point out that we did not receive IRB approval for this presentation, so I can't talk to you in absolutes. I can't give you the exact data until we have the permissions from the IRB. However, I can talk to you a little bit, in generalities about what's going on at Graceland right now. If you notice right now in red, we're noting is that we really have this downward retention trend. As we've seen this over the last 5 years especially, we have seen a significant drop in our first to second year retention. But at the same time, and I put an asterisk here, we're looking at increasing enrollments. If I look over the past 10 years and even the past 5 years, and we do have a little spike one year, we have generally seen an increasing trend in our enrollment. And I give this partly kudos to our admissions folks. They've done a great job hitting the pavement and filling our classrooms. And this is not shared by all the small institutions around here. That they aren't necessarily in growing enrollment. But again, I want to point out part of that growth in enrollment is through athletics, and we've been increasing our roster sizes. In addition, we added a couple sports, adding wrestling and bowling into the mix in our athletics department. So we're seeing this increasing enrollment. Now what we're also seeing here in yellow is we're increasing this new majority, and I know that that definition of the new majority is kind of defined differently by different folks. Some people say it's low income, some people say it's first gen, some people say it's first gen low income, others might even say that it's the non-traditional student or the adult learner. But the way we're going to define it today is it's generally speaking this low income and even a little bit of this first gen, which they tend to go hand in hand sometimes, but we're looking at low income as our new majority. And the interesting thing here is, if you note in orange, is we look at our TRIO program, which works only with our low socioeconomic status and first generation college students. And despite this trend of downward retention and increasing enrollment, and their numbers have increased as well, what they're seeing is they are maintaining I'm going to look at specifically at their persistence. As a matter of fact, our TRIO program's persistence to graduation rates are about the same as the university. And so that begs the question, why is it that our TRIO program has been so successful working with the populace of students that we have, and how is it that they can take a high-risk student and basically have them perform and succeed at the same level as any other student at the university? So with this, we've had several grassroots initiatives on campus. I'm not going to go through them all, but I really would say this was stimulated by Donna Hurt, who is a advisor in our TRIO program, and she came and talked about, and did a presentation to the faculty and the staff about how to better serve and better engage under-resourced students. And this kind of really sprungboard into several different facets, several different conversations, and it really inspired a lot of the faculty and support staff to start moving towards finding ways to better impact our new majority students, because that's what we're seeing more and more of at Grayson University. And the interesting thread, as we've gone into our studies, we did our different initiatives, and we've done this, there's this common thread that keeps coming up, and that's relationships. Again and again, as we look at this new majority, low socioeconomic status students, the idea of relationships seems to come to the forefront. James Comer in 1995 said that basically no significant learning occurs without a significant relationship. I think all of us in this room can say at some point in time in our lives we've had somebody that's kind of bonded with us and connected with us, and they've had a significant impact, whether it be on our education or our career or our personal lives, but it's always about that relationship. And as we talk more a little bit about relationships in the new majority, this is important. Again, this comes from the work for the bridging program. But they talk a little bit like the traditional structure or the traditional values of a college and university are usually built around the middle class, which is predominantly an achievement model. And again, for many of our professors, that's kind of the world we come from, and that's the way we kind of run our classrooms. The other part is that relationships in a poverty value structure or a low income value structure, relationships is extremely important, and that achievement and material possessions isn't nearly as important as the relationships and the people in your lives. Now, I know these are generalities, these aren't specifics, but it does come along in quite a bit of the qualitative research out there as it relates to low economic first generation students and impact on retention and student persistence. And right here I have highlighted that, and this comes from the book you see here, Understanding and Engaging Under-Resourced College Students. And what they say is that basically 43% of first-generation low economic persist to graduate. And I can tell you right now at Grayson University, for the TRIO program specifically, our number is actually higher than that 43%. So that's good. But look at this as we compare it to roughly 80% of non-first gen, non-low socioeconomic students that persist to graduation. Just being from that first generation low economic status, it basically cuts your chances of persistence towards graduation in half. So as we look at this and we think about this, knowing that it's not an achievement model, we know that they're at high risk, and that relationships are very important. It just makes sense to start investing ourselves in working in methods and programs that promote this idea of relationships. And this is something that we can do at Graceland. And so as we started to examine ways that we can do this, Catherine stumbled upon this appreciative advising model, and it was really all about building relationships, especially in the front half of that programming. So it just seemed like a no-brainer. We needed to explore this. All right, Catherine, this is where you come in. You do your piece. So I'm going to come back in here a little bit and kind of talk about, our action plan, how we came about putting this together. And, we're like not unlike any university. You gotta operate in nothing but acronyms. But we came up with this idea or concept that we're facilitators. We're not advisors. We're not going to tell you what to do. We really want to avoid that writing reflex. We're not that parent voice telling you what to do. And really, we want to be about facilitators. It's about questioning. And so we're the facilitators of academic success. And we called this the FASTeam. And all it was just another name where we incorporated this concept of appreciative advising into that FASTeam. So what we did is we kind of built this kind of crash course on appreciative advising because we were really on a short timeline because we really needed to make impact on these students quickly, or we were really concerned that we had a high proportion of students that fall through the cracks. And I will tell you that it was a high proportion of our incoming freshman class. So there was about a dozen of us that went through and did a crash course on appreciative advising. We took the list of students that had fallen below our academic dismissal criteria in the past, and we did an intervention with them in the form of appreciative advising. So, how did you kind of qualify for this? Well, in the past we had a academic dismissal policy that said first semester, first-time freshmen that fall below a 1.5 would be academically dismissed. However, last year we had reversed that policy and instead changed it to the second semester so that a student would have an opportunity to rebound from a poor first semester as they make that transition into college. However, this came with a little contention. This was not widely supported by the faculty, but it was ultimately supported in faculty assembly. But there's been some kickback from it, especially after we saw just the sheer number of students that would have fallen under that 1.5 criteria after the first semester and subsequently would have been dismissed but were then allowed to stay at the university. So what we did is we identified all those students that would have previously been removed or dismissed after the first semester, and we offered them an opportunity to participate in this FASTeam project, and specifically the appreciative advising model. But the one thing we want to stress is this was absolutely voluntary. Each one of the students was given the option. So we explained the model, what it is we were trying to accomplish, and then gave them the opportunity to enroll and participate, or they could simply decline, and that was their prerogative. Again, with this idea or concept of building relationships, we wanted it to be authentic, and we didn't want anything to be quote-unquote mandatory. So what was our experience and what was some of the outcomes with this? Well, first off, it was basically mixed level of participation. You could basically flip a coin as to the number of students that actively participated and the number of students that either chose not to participate or chose to participate but never actually took or participated in the actual advising sessions, or what we sometimes called coaching with their FASTeam coach. So you can flip a coin, and which actually at the same time kind of provides us with a little bit of a control. And we have those that non-participants and those that were participants, and we're looking at basically half and half. So it really allowed us to look at and do some correlation things. And I really wish I could provide you the specific data, but I can't because it was really interesting and we really had some nice numbers. But here's some just 3 findings that we had initially. And we're still waiting for midterm grades, so we really can only look at a couple indicators here. But first thing we saw was a moderate negative correlation between FAST sessions attended and the number of at-risk reports. Our at-risk reports look at several factors, which includes attendance, but it also talks about poor non-existent homework, negative class experience, and things of that nature. And faculty turned those in. And what we saw was that if you attended more FAST sessions, you had fewer at-risk reports. The biggest finding was actually a strong negative correlation between FAST sessions and unexcused absences. So in this case, again, the more FAST sessions you attended, the fewer unexcused absences that you had. So what we're seeing here is we really saw students